Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Live on Main. I'm Robert Falcione, the editor of HopNews.com, and with me today is one of the candidates for the Board of Selectmen. He's an incumbent. His name is John Coutinho, and he's to my right. He's going to talk about how he feels about the election, about the position of selectman. Why don't we start with that? The position of selectman. One day last week I said, well, gee, I don't know what they do. But I'll bet you know a lot about what the selectmen do.
Yeah, I do. Actually, the Board of Selectmen is the only board that's one of the only boards that's not appointed.
Uh-huh.
We have several that aren't. However, the Board of Selectmen have to work with every other board and committee in town. We're the highest elected officials in the town. And everything from administrative, legislative, policy setting, licensing. We do advocacy. We're actually standing in for the town with the against Eversource for this pumping station that we were talking about the other day.
Against Eversource? How's that?
Well, not against Eversource, but we're going to do our.
You're advocates for the townspeople.
Exactly.
Very good.
Exactly.
And where is this thing going on?
I don't want to really get into that one right now because we just really started looking into it,
and you've got some executive stuff going on. Don't anyone tell what's going on with Eversource.
No. But but the most important thing about the Board of Selectmen is that it's building up trust. It's working with these boards and committees and getting some time with them. It's
and you've had time on more than one. You were on ZAC, that's the Zoning Advisory Committee, and what they do is they they study and then suggest zoning changes to the planning board. And you were on the planning board.
I was on the plan. I was vice chairman for several years also. Yeah, but the actually ZAC is one of my favorite ones. And I think it's one of those committees that's great for people that want to start in town government to get into ZAC because it's one of those groups. It's anywhere from 9 to 15 people. 15 people was very difficult to be the chairman that year. But however, the way ZAC works is citizens come forth with suggestions for zoning changes and stuff. And one great thing about Hopkinton is that we're consistently changing, updating and tweaking our zoning bylaws. Other towns like Upton, every several years they might have an expert come in and a consultant, and then they change all the laws at once. And so when it gets to town meeting, people don't know what to make of it. And
well, what is it all about? The one traffic light, or I mean, what is?
No, but they're still. Come on, no, we can't say that. They're a very nice little town.
I know that. They only have one traffic light, like Hopkinton used to.
We used to,
and that was a nice little town. Now it's getting to be a nice bigger town.
Yeah.
And so on the planning board, what do you think? Like, were you on the planning board when Legacy was
Legacy's been going through forever, so there's always been something to do with Legacy. There were still things to do with Legacy, and there's still additional things to do with Legacy. So, but let me get back to the Board of Selectmen in that, because when you think of Hopkinton's a town where again I was talking about earning trust and respect from the townspeople. Now I've been living here almost about 20 years. And I'm barely a hiller. I had my mother lived here and everything else. My children might end up becoming townies if they get married get married or settle back here with Brenda and I after college, and then they have their kids, because then they can actually say their grandmother lived and died here. So that actually makes them. However, I do consider myself a healer because I've put my time in and I've been on these boards, and I'm trying to gain. I've consistently try and gain the trust of all the townspeople. And it's not just the townspeople. It's the workers in town hall. Mm-hmm. It's the first responders, the firefighters, the police force, the DPW workers. Mm-hmm. When at midnight when they were doing that the snowblower attachment for the
I got photos from you.
Right, I went out and took the pictures because I wanted them to know that the Board of Selectmen is behind them, that they're out working at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and somebody notices, somebody feels for them and actually takes pictures, because people wake up in the morning, well, the snow's gone, well, the DPW did the job they're supposed to. But, and that's the thing about some of these, some of the people that work in the town, when everything's going well, nobody says anything. Something goes wrong, people will complain. So once in a while, when they're doing the job and it's going well, I wanted to be out there and actually telling them.
How did you jump to the Board of Selectmen from the? What was it, from the planning board?
It was from the planning board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you want to do that?
Well, when I stepped back, I was on the planning board for several years, and I still continued to stay on ZAC. ZAC is almost 10 years now, and I wanted to try and get on the policy setting side.
Mm-hmm.
I was zoning, doing bylaws and such, but I wanted to get on the policy setting side so that we could continue some of these changes, and then to work and try and work with some of the growth and mitigate some of the growth. Because one of the things that we're noticing right now is that people are saying, "Oh, there's too much growth. There's too much growth." What we're noticing is the lack of mitigation for some of this growth that happened, because it happened so quickly, because of the recession and all of the projects that were supposed to come up serially. They ended up all shooting up at once, and so we right smack in the face, we're getting hit with all of these projects. And so if we can work together and then try and make sure that in the future we don't have all these projects hitting at once, and start to work with them and try and make them come up more serially.
I hear you. Well, it was a great risk for Roy McDowell to buy that piece of property at the bottom of the recession, which he did, and to move forward with developing it the way he did. And we're seeing a great neighborhood down there in Legacy South, where over these last short few years, the trees are growing in, and the leaves are sprouting, and the neighborhoods are growing, and they're young neighborhoods, most of them, and I'm sure they're having some children in the school department. But these were so well planned, these neighborhoods.
Well, he worked with the town very closely, and I mean, it's several regimes going through the planning board, several regimes going through the Board of Selectmen, and the townspeople. It was voted on at town meetings several times,
right.
Voted on at the ballot box several times. So everybody had their bite at the apple. If you didn't go to town meeting or you didn't vote, then you really get a chance to really talk about it. And some people who are complaining about it really should have stepped up back then and voted or come to town meeting and doing some of these things, rather than just now saying, "Oh my goodness, what happened?" But and that's one of the things that people also have to take consideration when they're bashing this neighborhood, is that it is a neighborhood of Hopkinton. And when people are going around saying how horrible it is and terrible it is, there are people that just bought these houses that love the new homes, and I believe that it's doing them a disservice, and also doing the town a disservice. If we want to work together, try and make something better, great. But when we're trying to make somebody feel as though a house that they just bought isn't the best it can be, I think that's
a bad attitude. Right. And if I could just reply to two of the things you said. One, about now these people are coming up and complaining, whereas they weren't part of the process. And as far as myself, living in town, living out of town, during this whole process, in or out, depending upon which way the wind blew. Can you show that picture of the ribbon cutting? But I don't think that should leave them out of because we've heard that before. Hey, if you should have said something before. Well, you actually should have, but you didn't. So now get educated about it,
right?
And learn what the rest of the town did all those years to make it right for you now. And I hear complaints about traffic, and something. The traffic, as we know, is being negotiated and mitigated as we speak. As we sit here right now, as far as I know, Norman and the town council are still negotiating with Crosspoint regarding.
No, actually, the negotiations are over. They are donating that land.
Isn't that wonderful to hear?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that people were worried about, was that there might be a land taking, or is it going to cost us millions of dollars?
Isn't that wonderful?
I got to say that the Board of Selectmen and the town manager really did a great job working with Crosspoint, and Crosspoint did a great job.
When did this donation become?
It's still in the works, but it's going to be. It was announced that.
So that's a fantastic thing, and you know something.
The gifting. I don't know whether they call it donating or gifting is probably the best word.
And where's that ribbon again? Because what happened prior to the ribbon cutting is that I got an invitation, and you can see me on the far right. That's not the cut ribbon though, is it? Where did that picture come from? But it's about to be cut, right? I'm on the far right of that one, Eric. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the reason I jumped in is because the invitation said if you were part of the process, if you went to every meeting. So these were the different reasons that you could step in the ribbon cutting. And someone might have said, well, he's not in government. He doesn't own any of that stuff. But, you know, the invitation said, if you've been to all these meetings, and I was, when I was a bit younger, I went to all the meetings, no matter if it was the planning board, the Board of Selectmen, Concom, and I saw how the process worked for the OSMOD, the Open Space Mixed Use Development, that the town approved.
Well, even if you went to town meeting and voted, you know, because that was, and it's another big thing when people are talking about the over 55 development and how that came down to just one vote. One vote.
Amazing.
If just one other person had come to that annual town meeting, they could have changed history as far as Legacy Farms goes. Right. So that's why it's so important for people to be engaged, and especially people that might want to be in town government to something. First, the foundation should be at least voting, at least going to town meeting. And so to me, that's some of the most important parts about being a good citizen of the town is to at least vote, at least have a say when the things are going through.
Become involved. Don't wait until it's on your street, which an awful lot of people do. That and quite frankly, to be fair to them, that's the way probably the majority of the people who get into politics do so, because they have a dog in the fight, and they want to protect their interests, and it's not a bad thing. But the problem with that is the fact that you want to protect your interests. You get elected to the planning board fairly, and then the first time your interest comes before the board, you have to excuse yourself, right? You can't vote on that issue.
Well, that's why, again, when I was saying that a great place for people to cut their teeth if they want to know anything about zoning is to get on a zoning advisory committee.
Yeah.
And what's great about the zoning advisory committee, as I said, it's between, it's right now we're trying to keep it about 9 because,
that's a good working number.
But it's a good working number because we get people from all areas of the town. We get people from all walks of life and points of view. And the way that my good friend Sandy Altamira, we've been on the board together for many, many years. And the way we look at it is if we can get it through Zach and all be relatively happy with it, we think that we can usually get it through town meeting. And what's great is that especially Sandy and I, we come at these problems from completely opposite ends, but we totally respect each other, and we both know that we want the best for the town. And so what we do is we bring it right into about 10%, and then we work out those details with the rest of the group, and then we really usually come up with some great articles to bring to town meeting.
And I'm pretty sure, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that when you're on Zach, when I was talking about people that get on the planning board now and they can't do any voting on their matter. But on Zach, they can vote on anything.
Well, yeah, because we're an advisory board,
right?
And that's what again, because everything.
There's no money involved.
Well, there's with any of it. We're an advisory board, so after it leaves us, it goes to the planning board, and then the planning board usually chews it up a little bit and tweaks it, and it goes to town council, and then eventually it goes to town meeting. And then that's where actually stuff is enacted. No, Zach doesn't do anything. Planning board can't do anything. The town council can't do anything. everything goes to town meeting. And that's why I keep stressing how important it is for people to get to town meeting and how important it is for people to get to the ballot box. Because whenever anything's involved with money or some of the larger zoning articles, they do get to the ballot box. So it's very important for people to vote on May 15th.
And the biggest thing was Roy's thing, right? With the
one vote,
the switching of the commercial to the 180 homes, and it was just one vote. And I hear a lot of people are not really happy about that one, not just the one vote, but with the outcome. But it was there for everybody. Roy took his licks a couple of years ago when it failed, and this time he came in. When he was successful, he came in and he educated the town, and Hop News helped put his message out with all of the actuarial stuff, and with the was it 1.6 million or so that
between 1.6 and 1.8 is the delta in the amount of additional revenue that we believe will be coming into the town year after year. So in actuality, and there won't be any students coming out of the over 55 unless they, that's, I don't know if you can start first grade at 55, but actually there was another one that I thought we should actually talk about, which is the new marathon school. One of the other misconceptions that I've been hearing throughout this campaign is that we've got a lot of students coming in because of Hopkinton's growth, and we're already having to build a marathon school. But one of the things that we have to remember is that the marathon school has been a replacement for the center school. That's how it was presented to the townspeople at town meeting when we voted on it the first time, and then when we did the extra classrooms because of the mix-up with the state numbers and everything. But it's actually a replacement for center school. Any other additional schools that we make, we're going to have to expand a bit because the town is getting bigger. But but the town's getting more as much as we're getting bigger, we're getting more vibrant. We're getting more new people are moving into town.
Oh, isn't it wonderful?
It really is. Some of the new people are moving to town. It really is fun, and it's great to see new young families. I'm noticing in my neighborhood. The sad thing for me is one of my daughters just graduated from high school.
Oh, don't make me cry.
And she's in college, and now I'm watching the neighborhood change from where it was when I came. My wife and I moved here. My daughter was an infant, and I remember little girls coming to my house and knocking on the door. Hi, do you have any kids? I said yes. And I went over and grabbed my daughter and brought her over, and they looked and said, "Oh, a baby." And I said, yes, but I need babysitters. And now in my neighborhood, there's all these new young families coming in, and it's great to see, but it's also sad for me because, I miss my little girls.
Yeah. Well, I think that as that neighborhood grows and the trees grow in and they blend in with the architecture, I just want to point out that architecture is fairly new to Hopkinton. That's more like Colorado, with the the garage out kind of thing. But inside, it's like Beacon Hill. I mean, these homes are so beautiful inside. You wouldn't believe it if you haven't been in one, because they are brand new.
Well, that's one of the things that actually benefited Hopkinton also. I remember when we were looking at them when I was on the planning board, or maybe it was through Zach, one of the committees I was on. They originally thought they were going to be selling for about $300,000 in that range, and now some of them are selling for $500,000 and $600,000. And what's great about that for the town is that we're getting much more revenue than we ever expected.
Right.
So the initial estimates that we came up with several years ago, trying to see whether or not this project was going to be revenue positive, we're doing much better than we ever expected.
And I've heard a lot about the traffic. Oh, they did a terrible estimations of the traffic, and this is wrong and that's wrong. Well, here's another. Oh, I almost forgot to mention that when you were talking about getting involved this way, that way. I don't think I've been in town 5 years when a bunch asked me to run for selectman. And I thought, are you daft? I don't know. I have no clue about being selectman. So I kindly and respectfully refused. But and I'm glad I did, because you folks are doing a much better job in the intervening years. But I was going somewhere with this and I totally lost it.
Well, I'll try and see.
The traffic. Okay, so this was like another really satisfying moment of my life when Norman came up to me maybe 2 weeks ago and he said, you know that change the advice you had for that lane on Cedar Street. Now you may not even have been in town long enough to know about when that new new post office was built.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was there in front of that post office before they built the sidewalk to nowhere, as I called it, because it went to the driveways.
Actually, wasn't that the ruins of the old church? I think we're right in that area. Back in the 1800s.
Okay, that might be true.
I spent a lot of time at St. John's Church in the
St. Malachi, and
you can see the picture of it right there, and that's about where it was.
And so, what I suggested, because having driven up and down that street thousands of times, when you came up to approach the light, where the post office is, where the sidewalk now is, was a dirt shoulder. And people use that as a lane to approach the light. And I believe that you'd have 20 fewer cars if they grabbed that piece of land and made it a lane. Somehow integrated a lane, got rid of the curb between the post office and the old Cumberlands, and then got rid of the bump that's further down. And you have, and Norman said, well, they integrated your advice.
Right, actually, yeah. 2 weeks ago, I went with the chamber and did a review of the whole change that's happening there. And then again, you may have seen it at the Board of Selectmen meeting where they presented it again in reference to town meeting.
Well, I had seen they had done it, but it's the first time Norman gave me a little bit of credit for it. So I may not be able to be a selectman, but I've driven around this town enough to have some kind of advice with the traffic. Oh, another one, can I tell you?
Well, okay, if you let me get a word in edgewise.
Maybe I will.
Okay, all right.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
no, but when we're just talking about traffic, I just wanted to bring up one of the great things and one of the tough things about being here in Hopkinton is that we are at the crossroads of 495 and the Mass Pike. And as great as that is for us to get back and forth to work and to home and to the airport or wherever we have to go, we are the exit for everybody that wants to go to Upton, to Mendon, to etc. Get Grafton going up that way, and then the same thing going the other direction, heading east, going to Ashland and Framingham and that. And so a lot of the traffic that we see is in Hopkinton traffic. So when people say, "Oh my goodness, we can't build another restaurant, we can't build another thing, we have too much traffic already," maybe it's mostly the time it's people just driving right through.
It often is, it often is, and
it's tough.
And so what's happening now, though, is I think phase 3 of the traffic plan is about to come into view.
I think that that when we bury the lines and we put the stripes in and start working down the road and work on some of the effective traffic calming measures, I really think it might be a little bit more even-handed. Well, and with the North Road opening up, that's going to help with the other direction also, with people that are trying to go to Southborough. They're no longer coming downtown. So hopefully all these things together, will help to some extent.
Well, I mean, when I talk about that, I'm talking about the downtown, and people may not know this, but there are going to be extra lanes. There's going to be less parking like in front of the Sunoco. All that parking's going away. And there's going to be a lane, a merge lane after the light heading west. I believe the same thing is happening on the other side of the intersection, where there'll be a merge lane there, and they may lose the space in front of the Gourmet. There are going to be a few spaces that are going to be lost because of this reworking. And then you've got it's really nice to hear the Crosspoint. Can we have a hand for Crosspoint, please? Good going, people. I wish I had heard it before tonight.
Oh,
though.
sorry.
So I could have celebrated. No, I don't expect you to be giving me the news. I'm supposed to do that. But so the way I'm looking at it, the straightening of the intersection, all the engineers I think that's a great idea.
Well, the best thing is that when we were doing the negotiations with Crosspoint, we pulled the lawyers out of the room. And that's one of the things Norman was stressing is just get the engineers in there and have them work out what's the best solution, because nobody wants to take any more land than is necessary.
Right.
And what's best for the town, what's best for Crosspoint, and actually what's best for the town and Crosspoint, that they're mutually
right. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
They both work. Both of those things.
What helps one,
together.
And that's what we do. Like I always say, that's what we do. We take care of each other, and that's what and that's when we take care of Crosspoint, it's helping everybody.
Sure.
And so Norman stressed that we just have the engineers in the room, no lawyers. Have them work out the technical details, the whole strategy, and then give it to the lawyers to work out what compensation might be and everything. But then Crosspoint, just like Crosspoint again. With the marathon bibs, the marathon charity numbers, they got the ones that Colello's used to get, and immediately donated them right to the respite center.
Wow.
I was part of that negotiation to make sure that Crosspoint got all theirs, to make sure that all of the organizations here in Hopkinton got their due, and Crosspoint, they immediately transferred them right up to the respite center, and the respite center did a wonderful job. I mean, every year they set the bar for fundraising. I mean, just an amazing job with whatever numbers they get. They really put them to great use.
And I had the honor of being invited to their anniversary party the Saturday before. What a wonderful event that was.
It was a great event.
Yeah, and by the way, I am going to get that video out to everybody. We've got a video sitting on the computer there that I began working on, but these things just you push that aside to get to the newest stuff that's going on, and so that was a project, and hopefully I'll get that together this weekend for everybody. I hope so. I want to do that.
Yeah, it was a great event. It was a great event. I mean, we talk about well attended.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. And EMC, thank you to Dell EMC. Really, thank you very much because again, they're there for the respite center. This is what it is. Again, it's the companies in town. We take care of each other. We take care of each other, and that's all we've got to keep in mind. Is that if we all do our part, we can continue to have a great, flourishing community. It's like the visioning statement that we worked on a few years ago. We're a welcoming, vibrant, welcoming community, and that's how I see us. And we're respectful of our past, cognizant of our present, and looking forward to a bright future. And if we can keep all these things in mind, and keeping in mind that we all want to try and do good, I think we have great.
What do you see for the future?
Well, that's what I was saying. I think that we have great things in store. One of the things we have to do is again mitigate some of these traffic issues and some of these issues with the growth. But I hope to see in the next couple of years the downtown coming back to life. The building that you were in, that they're trying to revamp and stuff.
Well, they've got it rented.
Right, and but
to have
this
store. Yeah.
Right, to have places filling them in and more people downtown. Mm-hmm. To have this new corridor redone and the sidewalks widened and a bike lane. Really, we get a bike lane attached to the center trail. Me, I love trails, and I always admit it. However I vote, I always default to trails. That's part of when I said that the town has to get to know you and know what you're thinking and how you're going to possibly vote when it comes to things. And when it comes to trails, I'm always voting for trails. Whatever we do, if we're purchasing land or if land's being donated, can we put a trail through it? Is it going to help us somewhere else so that people can walk? Everybody's driving everywhere. Can you walk or ride your bike or take your dog for a walk? This is where we become one with nature, one with the town, meeting people. It's all about that. And so we'll have the downtown connected to the trail system, and then take us right into Ashland. And then work through the old railroad beds and such. that's and have legacy farms completed and a nice, strong, vibrant neighborhoods happening in there. Get some, if we can work with the Mezzets and maybe get some more commercial happening down there at some point. So at both ends of town, we can have stuff, and then with right in the middle, have a vibrant downtown. And one of the things that I'd absolutely love to see is a marathon center. Whether it's downtown or uptown, it's a strong, using the word vibrant again, marathon center where people come from all over the world that are interested in long distance running. Not just a museum, but a place where people can come and train and meet experts and doctors and work on nutrition and running techniques. So we could be, like when it comes to skating in Marlborough, where people from all over the world come to Marlborough to train. They go there for tournaments. They get ready for the Olympics, or in Colorado for track and field. That could be Hopkinton, because we're so much more than the start of the marathon. And that's what I said when I was addressing the crowd before the race started, was that we're so much more than the start of the marathon. And I invited everybody to come back to Hopkinton. Come back on a day when we're not 40,000 people in this one small spot. I don't want people to think that we're a crowded city type place. I want them to come and see that we're open, green. We have lakes and trails and beautiful downtown common is just gorgeous when there aren't 30,000 people trampling on it.
Right.
So I want people to see us for more than just a marathon.
Well, that's a great point to make. And I'm sure you mentioned hopnews.com. If you want to know what's around, what's going on, marathon people, then check out hopnews.com.
Well, I got to, especially I told you when the bombing happened several years ago. I was on vacation in Mexico, and when I really wanted to know what was happening in my town, I went right straight to your Hop News, and it was great because I didn't want to get what was going on in Boston. I didn't want to know I wanted to know what was happening in my town. And I really appreciate all the work that you did and everything that you put up there, because I knew what was happening in my town, if my friends were safe and my family was safe, and so thank you. You really did a great job covering that.
Thank you. And before they knew who did the terrible deed, we actually we had the entire, from 7 a.m. on until the last person left town, we had it all on a file, much like the webcam that's recording us today, and I sent that to the FBI. So it's luckily they weren't here.
Right.
That's all I can say. Luckily they weren't here. There is a movie out about it. I'm not going to critique it right now because there's some parts that I
still haven't seen the movie yet. Yeah. I'm a little busy taking care of the people at Golden Pond. I'm there 7 days a week.
And can I ask?
Yeah.
I see some new construction there. Now, that's not the next phase. It's part of the...
It's part of phase 2 that was never completed. They just wanted to get it up and running. And, basically it was, at the time it was quite expensive to do that. And again, that was during the recession. And so, like everybody, everybody held back a little bit during the recession.
They deferred a lot of
and
stuff.
So it's the same thing. So here's Golden Pond, and so what they were actually doing is building a couple apartments, expanding the dining room, and giving some outdoor living space for the people that happen to be in the dementia area, and some of the people that are in the Jerry Psych areas that can't go outside by themselves.
Right.
But it gives them a much better, brighter, happier place where they can sit down and look at the pond.
Well, that courtyard's beautiful.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very, very proud of it.
The new dining room is
I absolutely love my position there. It's for me. I don't have parents. I don't have grandparents, and it's just so great to go there and feel that. I used the term yesterday too. The nachas. The love of the Yiddish term for the love that these people still have and want to give out, and it's just great to feel their energy and their wisdom, And so I feel as though, as much as I work there, you know, as I say, I'm probably in there 7 days a week, that I feel as though I'm getting more out of it than
Well, you know, to borrow from the Yiddish, if I may, I would say that you were a mensch.
No, thanks.
And,
No,
that means gentleman, I think, I hope.
No, just my kind soul.
Kind soul. Yes, well, you certainly are, and I do appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And I have a feeling, well, you know, you and I could talk for several
minutes.
Oh,
I know, but I have to go to services.
You have services now, and I know you have to go, and I do appreciate you sneaking the time in to do this today. Last week was too short of a notice, and I know that, and I apologize that two of you couldn't be here at one time. But you know, it's such a good time.
Thank you.
Always nice speaking with you. Could we see the picture of Jerusalem? Is it maybe it's Jerusalem? Maybe it's just the Israel proper.
I'll tell you.
We have it on the screen here somewhere.
Yeah, that's actually right. That's actually looking down from the Mount of Olives, looking down at the Dome of the Rock.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the.
And you have another. You're going to show us another one.
Well, yeah, that's on the Via Dolorosa. That's on the walk.
Oh, is that the Via would be a way? Or street,
right, it's a walk of sorrows. It's a walk of sorrows. That's the Stations of the Cross, if you want to put it in Christian terms.
Yeah, and we're gonna play our exit music.
Okay.
Right, and we're gonna one more time thank John.
No, and thank you, and thank you for Hopkinton for watching. I really have a fun time being here, and if you ever want to find me, call me. I'm always available. Find me at Golden Pond or at one of the town halls at this point. But I just want to tell you one more thing about that we are working on that. Mm-hmm. We're trying to find an interim solution that's going to be even better, because I want to make sure that everybody that's being so great, I mean, the people in town hall are really doing a great job. They're under tough conditions, spread out all over the town, squeezed into other offices. And we're going to do our best, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that we find them a better midterm solution until the town hall is going.
Thanks, folks, and thank you, John.
Much.
Appreciate it. And he's going to play some exit music.